Welcome to the latest Motley Fool Scoreboard. I'm Anand Chokkavelu, and we've got longtime fools Jason Hall and Matt Frankel giving a 1 to 10 rating to a company with a name that sounds like Chili's or Applebee's answer to Denny's sampler platter. It's AppFolio, ticker symbol APPF. Yes, I went a long way for that. We'll rate the strength of AppFolio's business, including factors like industry and competition. 10 is invincible. A 1 is hopeless. Both of you have 8s, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, AppFolio is the clear industry leader in software for the real estate industry. It's a massive business. And real estate's still in the relatively early stages of digitizing. There are about 35 million rental units in the United States alone. Very fragmented market, but AppFolio has about 1/4 of them, so a big market lead.
Yeah, everything Matt says, I just want to really focus on the fragmentation for a minute, because the fragmentation is really in the property management industry, which are the customers for this sort of thing. You have a lot of small owners that self-manage. You have a lot of single property owners that use the local management company that runs 20 or 25 properties. And like Matt said, a lot of those are still manual, and they're using spreadsheets to manage work orders and things like that. AppFolio is one of the leaders there, and that off-the-shelf tool to manage, whether it's property maintenance, tenant relationships, service calls, scheduling, all that kind of thing. And these guys are OG artificial intelligence. They've been talking about AI, like their AI chatbot, going back before the pandemic. Yeah, AI's been around for a while, y'all.
Yeah, people search on conference calls for AI. That's a really interesting test, doing it 5 years ago and seeing if it lands. Talk about management next. A 10 is Warren Buffett. A 1 is Homer Simpson. Both of you agree once again with 7s, Matt.
Yeah, and Shane Trigg, he's a former Salesforce executive. He became CEO just in 2023, which, I mean, honestly, his short tenure is the only reason the score wasn't much higher. He does have a pretty impressive team around him, but it's just too early to say whether he's an excellent CEO. But to be fair, in the past couple of years, he's done a really good job of adding features to the platform and really deepening the relationship with customers.
When you see Salesforce is one of the kind of emergent early leaders in integrating AI into a legacy platform. And my guess is that Trigg was probably part of the early seeds there. And even though he's only been CEO at AppFolio since 2023, he's been at the company for longer than that. And I think AppFolio should get some credit for having pretty good succession planning. A few other plan changes happened when Trigg was promoted, including co-founder Klaus Schauser stepped down from what remains a very tenured board. So the company's moving into its next generation of leadership to, I think, accelerate growth and move the company to the next level.
For financials, a 10 is a fortress. A 1 is yikes. Both of you match once again with 8s. Are we throwing a perfect game? I'm going to jinx it. Maybe we'll have the probably first ever where both panelists agree on everything. All right, you got an 8, Matt.
I mean, it's a pretty straightforward business. It's good. It's not, one of the top companies in the market. We pretty much, it's not surprising we agree on it. I gave it an 8 for financials. Great margins. Free cash flow margins are above 20%, even though the business is growing at a rate of more than 20% year over year. The company has not been profitable for too long, but great momentum. It showed a clear path to profitability and achieved it. About $300 million of net cash on the balance sheet. So there's, a lot of money to reinvest and maintain the technological lead.
And I think an important thing when we look at these software as a service companies too, is looking at cash flows as well. It's very recurring cash, super sticky platforms. They don't have a tremendous amount of churn, and they tend to grow the relationships with their customers. So if you move past just GAAP earnings and look at cash flows, what you see is a business that really over the past decade has consistently generated like a little bit of positive operating and free cash flow, just a little bit. But that's good because it means you don't have to raise capital. Cash flows are really skyrocketed over the past couple of years. They're also well in excess of stock-based compensation. Another thing for software companies you want to look at closely, which is actually pretty reasonable. So I throw that into the financial profile of the business well. Considering it's a software company that's in growth mode, you look at the balance sheet and where it is with its operating business, and I think the financials are probably stronger than they might seem right now.
Jason, let's talk valuation now. What will AppFolio stock do over the next 5 years? How safe is it? 10's a sure thing, 1's a lottery ticket.
So I think we're still moving in the direction of that thing we're not supposed to talk about when it's happening, the potential perfect game. 10 to 15% is my expectation for returns. That's the same as Matt. Here's where we disagree. I could make the case for it being on the higher end, just if we see operating leverage continue to improve and the big growth in cash flows that we've seen ramp up again. I mean, cash flows have more than tripled over the past year. I think they double again over the next 2 to 3 years. So 50 times free cash flow sounds expensive, but if we continue to see growing free cash flow at that rate, it's probably a lot cheaper than it seems. I think it's pretty safe too for a growth-focused SaaS stock. Talked about the stickiness. It's a leader in a market that's very fragmented. Even though there's an argument to be made if the business stumbles that the valuation is expensive, I think you put it all together and the safety score, it's a 7. And I'm willing to predict that maybe the downside from here for investors is we see it get acquired.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if they got acquired. It's in that sweet spot market cap wise for one of the big players in the space, in the overall SaaS space to buy it. I was slightly different. I said the 10 to 15% range for returns, but on the lower end. And really, it's a valuation thing. I think a lot of the growth is priced in at this point. It trades for roughly 10 times sales. I do think it'll be a market performer slightly better over the next 5 years, but I don't see spectacular returns from here. I gave it a 7 for safety.
Let's move on to everyone's favorite topic. Jason, is there a company in AppFolio space that you like better?
We're just going to disappoint everybody here, Anand. It's a bit of a unicorn in the crossroads of tech and real estate management. It's a unique business built on a kind of a playbook we know that works. Consolidate the market, land and expand your share with your clients. It's in that space. There's not really anybody else. Plus, it's a really good business.
Yeah, there's really not a ton of direct competition, but just for the sake of throwing a name out there, if we're talking about, tools to help people manage their properties better, I'd have to say Airbnb is maybe a favorite of mine in the real estate space. But two totally different businesses. But as far as just managing properties, I think that's one to look at too.
Anand, did Matt just break up the perfect game with a single?
I had to at the end
through the 5-hole there.
I don't think he really did. I'm going to call it perfect groupthink scoreboard. That's either a very good thing and
a win or a lose.
Everyone's agreeing because it's correct, or it's a very dangerous thing and people should really look at AppFolio more deeply. Thank you to both Jason and to Matt. They've given AppFolio a strong overall score of 7.5 out of 10. That's under the 8.0 that would force me to own it, but very compelling nonetheless. Look out for a new scoreboard every market day at 7 p.m. Eastern. Next up is Walker & Dunlop. Till then, Fool on.